Okay, we're gonna see how this goes. We're out for snow today, so I thought a good way to make up the day, besides doing the article quiz that I have to create yet still, would be to record a lecture of what we would be covering today, Thursday, February 13th, 2014. And we were starting with chapter 5, cognitive development in infancy. So we'll see if this works. So we've already done 4, which was physical development, and so now we're on to 5, cognitive development. Physical was a bunch of facts, and we covered that. We ended with illnesses and said that little ones 0 to 2 get about 7 respiratory illnesses in the first year, and if they're in daycare, it's twice as often. So the problem I can see here having is that to get did we lose it? No. To be able to show notes up here as I type them. So I'm going to use a chat feature and see if that shows up. So I'm not going to really know if it does or not until we watch it. If this is a complete and total disaster and it does not work at all like I think it will, then obviously we'll just discuss it in class and get further and further behind. So when we are talking about cognitive development in infancy, these babies 0 to 2, we are looking at their thought processes, their abilities to think. And you can imagine that that would be hard to assess in a 1-year-old, 18-month-old, 2-month-old. So we have come up with some creative ways of testing these babies to figure out how they do indeed think. And that's, to me, part of the fun of studying cognitive development in babies is figuring out how we assess for that. So now, we are new to this, and all of our chapters on cognitive development will always begin with a dude named Piaget, Jean Piaget. He is a famous psychologist who studied development, and specifically cognitive development and his own children's development. So some people have a criticism with him about that because he studied his own kids, and we know research-wise that's not a good thing to do. But we then tested his theories out on other children, and it held true. So that's why we continue to look at him. So I'm going to try to put some notes up here through a chat and see if they get recorded. So Piaget. So he says we go through different stages of cognitive development, and this first stage is sensory motor stage. And the sensory motor stage, sensory motor, tells you exactly right there the way they understand and think about the world and process the world is through senses. So they understand world through their senses. And movement. Now, movement of things around them, movement of themselves. Let me hit send on that one. Okay. So it says wait 8 seconds before it's going to show up. I don't know. I'm not in a very comfortable position, so I keep moving my camera. I am in my kid's room right now because I just don't want to go above the garage where it's quiet. It's just too far away. So I'm doing it and locked a kid out of his room. But you might hear them yelling or something. My husband's supposed to be out there taking care of all that, but just in case. All right, so I'm going to keep adjusting this while I find a position. It doesn't hurt my back. I've been working on this, trying to find out what I'm going to use to record this for over an hour. And I was sitting in a very bad position, so my back hurts. All right, so Piaget, senses and movement. Now, what I'm going to talk about with this age, particularly, and this is 0 to 2, because sometimes his stages go beyond what we're talking about. So Piaget, so the sensory motor stage is 0 to 2. So it happens to correspond with the age that we're talking about. So that's good. So all I'm going to talk about in this for him is some of the cognitive milestones that babies reach during these stages. Just a few. He goes into different kinds of substages, primary circular reactions and tertiary circular reactions, all that kind of stuff. We're not going to do those substages. We are just going to do some of the highlights. Okay? So let's give some highlights. Well, goodness, it won't even let me do it. It makes me wait 10 seconds before giving chats. Okay. So one of them is, let's do, Okay. Object permanence. So this is a cognitive skill that little ones develop at this stage, usually around 6 months. What we see is that children go from one cognitive stage to the next. And the first one is where they don't see it, they don't think it exists anymore. Out of sight, out of mind. Okay? But there's a transition that happens where they start to understand that things do exist even if they can't see them. So it's harder to take things away from them. They will look around for them. They'll look around your back. If you take something and put it behind your back, they'll look around your back for it because they know it still exists even if they can't see it. Same thing, famous study. So let me give you a definition first. Object permanence is the understanding that objects exist even if they can't be seen. Okay, so I'm going to hit share on that. All right. So they understand that objects exist even if they can't be seen. So that's a transitionary situation. They're not born with that. So if you test out a child that does not have object permanence, you can easily see it by taking a little object, put it right in their face, make sure they see it, then put it underneath the blanket and cover it up right in front of them. Okay? If they turn away, and there's a picture in your book of a baby turning away from an image that's on the other side of a wall, okay, and the baby's sitting here and he's just turning and looking at you. If the baby turns away and loses interest in the object, then we think that means they do not have object permanence. They do not understand that it still exists. If you do the same thing to an older child, 6, 7, 8 months, look at my little toy, right? And then put it right in front of them underneath the blanket, they will look at the blanket. And if they're capable, they will reach over and try to pull the blanket up. They know it's still there. They're waiting for it to reappear because it didn't just disappear out of their face, therefore out of the world. So they do understand that difference. Okay, that's object permanence. Pretty easy. Objects are permanent, even if they can't see them. All right, another cognitive milestone, according to Piaget, is causality. Okay, causality is understanding that, if I can spell it, that they can make things happen. They very much find this out, and you can see this because they'll have an object and they'll drop it off their high chair, right? And then you'll bend over and pick it up, and they think that is funny. So what do they do again? They drop it off their high chair. You bend over and pick it up. They drop it off their high chair. You bend over and pick it up. They see a toy and they accidentally step on it, and it makes a noise. Wow, that's fascinating. So they may go back and step on it again, because it makes a noise. So this is understanding cause and effect, that they can make things happen. And they find it very interesting. But that's something that's a cognitive skill that takes a while to develop, that they have that kind of control and cause and effect relationship in the world. So that's kind of fun. Another concept that they have, according to Piaget, is something called a schema. And this is not really a milestone. Let's call it something else. Another concept. How about that? If I can spell it. Is a schema. And a schema is a mental representation of the world. Now, that's kind of a weird definition. So another way of saying it is, what is another way of saying it? A pattern of behaviors, expectations in certain situations. Okay. They're only letting me put so many words on chat at a time. This is not user friendly. Okay. So that should say a pattern of behaviors, expectations in certain circumstances. So they develop schemas. We all have tons of schemas in our head right now. Schemas are the organization of steps, of procedures, of behaviors in a certain circumstance. So we have a getting up schema. We do the same thing every morning when we get up. We have a getting ready for work or school schema. So we follow pretty much the same pattern every day, getting ready for work and getting ready for school. We have an eating schema. We understand what a fork is for, a spoon. We know how to use them. We know that you sit down at a table. So we have these behaviors and expectations that go along with certain activities. So babies come out with nothing. And so all they're doing in the beginning is developing new schemas. They're developing a bathing schema, a feeding schema, a changing diaper schema, a going to bed schema, a play with parent schema. So they have all these getting in a car seat schema. So they're developing these patterns and expectations about certain activities in their life. Okay, so we all have them. Babies, because they're developing them based on their experience like we do, but they have changing experiences all the time, their schemas are challenged. So they may develop a bathing schema. And if you have a newborn before the little umbilical stump falls off, you're not supposed to get it wet. So often parents bathe little bitty babies with a sponge on a foam thing or whatever. And they don't dunk them in water because the umbilical cord area is not supposed to get wet. So the baby first learns bathing schema. I get my clothes taken off, it's cold, I lay on this thing or lie on this thing, and somebody rubs stuff all over me that makes me even colder, and I scream and cry the whole time. Okay, that's their schema of a bath. Well, once the little umbilical cord falls off, they have a change in their bathing routine. Now we can actually put them in the water and it's a lot easier to wash them. So their original schema of bathing is challenged now and it changes. And so they have two choices according to Piaget as to how to handle this challenge to their existing schema. One is give up the idea of what a bath was. Just change your notion of what a bath is. So you're changing the existing understanding of something to fit the new thing in. So we call that accommodation. Accommodation, let me write down. So when our schema is challenged, we have two choices. I'm going to put that on chat. I hope this is being sent like I think it is. Okay? All right. So our first choice is to accommodate. And I have to wait 2 more seconds before it'll show up. Okay. So the first choice is accommodate. And that is when you change understanding of the existing. Don't you like all this movement? Oh, don't do that. So this is where change the idea what a bath means. Okay, so that's the example that we just used. So we're changing our understanding of what a bath means. Bath is no longer getting rubbed down. Bath means being immersed, being dunked in this water. It's a totally different physical experience. So the other option that they can do in this new situation, the second option, is to assimilate, which is to keep original schema, but change how we view the new information. So for the bath, we don't change our mind about the bath. It's not letting me put in. It's got a limit on numbers. We don't change our understanding about a bath. We just change how we see this new experience. So we still understand the other thing to be a bath. We call this something new. we don't even put it into our bath schema. We call it something new. And maybe we never remember that sponge bath schema. You know, of course, Freud would say we could have those memories come back through in our unconscious, but oh well. Some grown-up examples of this that you might be able to better identify with, since a lot of you don't have babies, and that would be having an understanding or an existing schema about the beginning of the world. And you take a science class, a physical science class, and it has a different concept or understanding of how the world began. And so you hear it, And it's a challenge to what you went into class thinking. This may happen in developmental psych too. You'll think kids do a certain thing because you did it, and then you'll find out, whoops, kids in general don't do that thing that you did. So back to the beginning of the world. If you accommodate, then you are going to change your understanding of how the world began. Your new information may cause you to change how you think. Okay? You may totally ditch the original one, or you may just kind of weave it together somehow. But you change your existing understanding. That's accommodate. When we accommodate somebody, we change the way we do things to make them more comfortable. When we, make sure our accommodations are appropriate for our grandparents when they come visit, then we may eat dinner at a different time because that's when they eat dinner, not when we do. We're changing the way we do things. So the example of assimilation for the beginning of the world example would be where we don't change how we think about the beginning of the world. Our existing schema, we keep it the same. The only thing we change is how we understand and interpret the new information. We may put it in a separate category, like man's way or science's way of understanding how the world began. And we'll still keep our original. We won't change our mind. Okay? When you assimilate, and we often use this word in cultural terms, someone moves to our country and we have different practices than they do, we ask them to assimilate. We don't change how we do things to fit their way. They have to change to fit our way. So the existing patterns, behavior, understanding doesn't change. The new thing changes. Okay? All right, so that's accommodation and assimilation. That's all we're going to talk about with Piaget. There's more to read about his view on sensory motor stage, and it's interesting, but that's all we're covering. Okay, so that's all you need to know. So you don't need to worry about those other substages in your book. All right, so moving past Piaget, okay, we're done with Piaget. We are going to look at just some general information about cognition that he does not bring up. All right. So once my screen stops flipping out like it's doing, I'm going to type in another text or another chat message here for the notes. But it's taking forever. So I'll just talk about it. We're going to look at babies' learning capabilities. Okay? Learning and memory. Learning and memory. Babies have memory. We know that. We know they have memory. Okay? We talked about that from prenatal experiences with the cat in the hat story, read to the babies before they were born, and they remember that story after they were born. They reacted differently to that story. So we know they have memory, but we have to test it out. And so testing that out after they're born is a fun little experience. So there should be an image in your book. I don't have my book with me. I should. There's a picture in your book with a baby lying on its back with a little string tied up to a mobile at the top of their crib. And what they did with this, so let me put this up, the mobile experiment. Okay. I'll write what it is. Tied, oops, cap locks, tied baby's foot to mobile, and it made it move. Okay, so they tied the baby's foot to the mobile, and the baby learned just by accident when it kicked its foot, the mobile above the bed moved. Okay, so that was interesting to them, of course. So we let them do that for a little bit. I'm not sure the length of time. That'd be a good question. Then, let me get up here. Then brought later, and the later is, let's see, 1 week. So we're talking about 3-month-olds. We brought it 1 week later. 1 week. Oh, my Internet Explorer is just going crazy. Gosh darn. Okay, then 1 week later, brought the mobile back, and baby started kicking. Okay, so we didn't tie it to the mobile next time, but we found that whenever we brought that back after a week, the baby apparently remembered the experience and started kicking as soon as it saw the mobile, expecting it to move. So that was with a 3-month-old. Okay, and again, how do we know? Maybe that happens with a 2-month-old or a 1-month-old. We would just have to repeat the study with those ages. So all I can tell you is that we've done it with a 3-month-old, and that's when we see that kind of behavior. You cannot generalize it to other ages. You have to test those other ages. So that's a kind of a frustrating thing when you're talking about development. But you have to know at what point that development actually happens. You know, there's a before and, well, for your view, there's a before and an afterward. So we have to know at what moment that occurs. And in order to do that, we have to keep testing them at different ages. And we did find that 3 months is what we're looking at right here. So, alrighty. Now, as far as learning, okay, babies can learn, obviously. And we know that by a couple ways that we test them. How do we test for learning? And we talked a little bit about this when we were talking about vision and depth perception and the visual cliff experiment. We look for biological signs because they can't control their physical abilities, okay? They can't tell us, yes, I remember that. They can't say, ooh, I can see that. I can't see that. They couldn't tell us any of these things with their words. So we have to look to behaviors. And we can only use behaviors that they're capable of producing. And we know that at different ages, there's some things they just can't do. So we, instead of being then tied to controllable functions on their part and development on their part, we can go ahead and assess them on things that they have no control over, but give us the information that we need. So how creative is that? So the kinds of behaviors that we look for. Behaviors we study that tell us about their cognition, their thinking, if I can spell it. Okay, so I'm going to start that. Let's start that little part, and I'm going to add to it here in a minute. I'm going to wait 4 seconds. So we're going to look at things like their breathing. Okay, their breathing, their heart rate, pupil behavior, and length of gaze, how long they look at something, if I can spell it. And sucking. We often use their sucking behavior. Okay, so these are the behaviors that we use to help us assess what's going on in this baby's head. Okay, these are things they can't control. Now, specifically for breathing, you know, it is faster is more interested. Okay, for heart rate, faster is more interested. They're more stimulated. So whatever they're experiencing, it's more stimulating to them, and we generalize that to interested. For pupils, bigger is more interested. Okay, I've run out of space, so I'm gonna move on. And for length of gaze, longer is interested. Gotta wait for it. Longer, length of gaze. Oh, I cannot spell. Longer is more interested. And then for sucking, stopping sucking is more interested. Okay, so if they stop sucking on something, it's almost like they're going, you know, they're shocked and the pacifier falls out. So the stopping of sucking shows they're interested in something. All right, so here's what we did to show that babies can learn and they have memory and all that kind of stuff. And we talked a little bit about it in the visual part. So we showed them an image, an item, and we keep showing it to them. We take it away and we show it to them again. And we take it away and we show it to them again. And what we find is over time they get bored with it. How do we know they get bored with it? Well, all those signs of interest go away. So when we show them the item in the beginning, their breathing increased, their pupils got bigger, their sucking stopped, all these things that showed interest. And then we took it away. Then we showed it to them again. Oh, we had a startle of all those kind of responses. And we took it away. We showed them again, same thing. Well, eventually you keep doing that and they lose interest. They stop all those behaviors. They're just like whoop-de-doo. They don't look at it a long time anymore. They just don't care. Well, we think what has happened, there's a fancy word called habituation for that. They have habituated to that experience. Habituation. Loss of interest after repeated presentations. Okay? So babies habituate to things. They get bored with them, just like we do, get tired of seeing them. And so they stop paying attention to them. Well, there is something called dishabituation, which is interesting. And dishabituation is after habituation, you've become bored with it, it's no longer interesting, and all of a sudden your interest is renewed. It's like spontaneous recovery in classical conditioning. So dishabituation, I can't see, so it's probably looking all funky right now. Yeah, not too bad. Dishabituation is renewed interest after habituation. So we show it to them, show it to them, show it to them. They eventually get bored. So we wait a while maybe. Or maybe we change something about it. And then bring it back. And whoop, it's interesting again. I mean, that helps us determine the kind of level of details they can see, their visual acuity, because we may change small things about the image after they get bored with it. And if they still are bored with it, then we think they can't see those changes. If we make a change and we show it to them again after they've been bored and they are interested again, then we know that they can see that change. So here's some weird things that we've done. There's one study that says that babies as young as 5 months old know math. They understand math, basic math. So an example would be in front of the baby, they put an item, like a little Mickey Mouse doll. Let's do it sideways. Okay, so they put a Mickey Mouse doll in front of them, okay? Then they put a sheet of paper over that blocks their view so they can't see it. They lift it up, and there's still one Mickey Mouse doll. Whoop-de-doo. They don't seem to be very interested, okay? So, try it again. We put a Mickey Mouse doll there. We put a cover over. We slip a second Mickey Mouse doll beside it. Move the cover, now there's two. Guess what? They go, oh! Heartbeat fast, breathe fast, stop sucking, oh! And they look at it for a long time. Ah, it was unexpected apparently. So let's do some math with it, okay? Let's put a Mickey Mouse doll and a sheet over their view. Then while they're watching, bring in a second Mickey Mouse doll right in front of them. We're not sneaking it up on them. Right in front of them. Bring it in, put it in there. Okay? Pull the sheet up, there's two. They don't seem very interested. Try this. One Mickey Mouse doll, they see it, a sheet goes down. You have another Mickey Mouse doll right in front of them, bring it in, set it there. Now drop it behind where they don't know it's been removed. Lift the sheet, there's only one Mickey Mouse doll. They go, oh, because that's not what they expected. Now we get some idea that means they know 1 + 1 = 2. You can say that's silly, but that's what developmentalists derive out of that kind of study. So I just think that's interesting. All right. So another fact, and then we're done with this chapter. How about that? We're nice and fast. And that is language. Language is another skill that they're learning at this time. And it's definitely a cognitive function, and it's evidence of their cognitive development. So, oh goodness, they give you a lot in that chapter about language, and I'm only going to cover a couple things, okay? We're going to cover milestones in language development. So specifically, from birth to around 11 months, or around the first year, they're called universal linguists. Okay, universal linguists, I'm going to put that up there. And what that means is that they can recognize and produce all the sounds possible in the human language. There are sounds in other languages from English that we don't use, that we are not even able to hear. We can't even recognize them. And we are not good at pronouncing them. But babies in that early stage are. It's like they come out capable of learning and producing any language. But of course, over time, they become specialists and they become very good at the language that they hear around them. And their ability to hear and produce the sounds of those other speeches goes away. So for a while, they have this great flexibility. But then, of course, just like we said before, we said by one, you have double the double the dendrite connections. But after a while, you realize you don't need all those, so you only become specialized. And that's what our language does too. Some other milestones when it comes to language, and my computer's still screwing up, is that we can understand, and you know this, you've been around babies, before we can speak. So we can understand a word before we can say the word. You know this. We'll do it with a little baby. Where's daddy? Where's daddy? And the baby will look around for daddy or look over at daddy. Or where's doggy or whatever the dog's name is. They'll look around for it. Go get something, they'll go get it. They might not be able to say it, but they'll go do it. So it's obvious that they understand before they can speak. Now generally, we have some time frames. Yeah. Generally, they say their first word at around 10 to 15 months. Okay. So somewhere around 10 to 15 months, they usually say their first word, and that is usually something, people or important objects or items around them, food. Of course, we could always get funny stories of what your first word was. You can ask your parents, and some people have funny first words, but generally it's going to be the people or the objects or the animals or foods or things that they see on a regular basis that they've just heard over and over again. It makes sense. Things that are important to them, obviously they need to use that word at the time. 18 months, we see a great explosion. At 18 months, the average baby knows around 50 words, can say around 50 words, okay? But by 24 months, okay, by 2 years of age, good gracious, they know 200 words. So in just 6 months, they've quadrupled their spoken vocabulary. It's amazing. And that's why we said the other day in class that 18 months to 2 years is a big brain growth spurt. You can see it in their language, obviously. We do talk to babies differently than we talk to older kids or us, and we call that infant-directed speech. Okay, we repeat our words, we repeat ourselves, we do it higher pitched, and all people do this, and all cultures do this. We change the rhythm of our words. We kind of sing it. Hi, sweetie. Hi, baby. Hi, baby. That's not how we talk to people. We kind of sing-song our words. We repeat what the baby says. And we'll often repeat it and extend upon it. So we repeat ourselves. Hi, baby. Hi, baby. Hi, baby. So we'll do it over and over again. But then we'll repeat what they say. So when they say ball, you say ball. You'll say it right there with them. And this is almost like a natural thing that we do. All cultures do it. Men and women. It's not just the girls, not just moms. Everybody gets that kind of sing-song. And we also turn what they say into questions. Ball. You want a ball? You want the ball? So we change their words into questions. We expand on them. So me go, we might say, you want to go outside. So we'll add to it to that make it more properly grammatically correct. So it's things that we do automatically without thinking about it. That's the end of chapter 5. I don't know how long we've been at this. Do I have a timer up here? That's not good. I need a timer. I think we have a little bit more time. So I'd like to start into the socio-emotional development. But I'm thinking maybe I should stop because what if none of this works and I've just wasted my time? There it is. So maybe we'll do socio-emotional next time. I think that's what I'll do. How about that? I'll stop now, and then if I find that this all worked, I will create a short lecture on the beginning of socio-emotional development. Okay, sounds good. So I'm going to stop now. Now we're going to have a quiz on this information just so that I know you watched it, and that'll be our attendance for the day. So I'm going to stop it right now.